Now, as a 30-year veteran in search and rescue and being the group leader, I'm curious, what is your typical day like?
So I never really have a typical day
Hmm.
because the rescue pager can go off at any time, which could include Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. It's just whenever anybody ends up getting in trouble in the mountains.
How did you get into search and rescue?
So about 32 years ago, there was a missing Boy Scout up near Big Bear, California, and I wanted to go help, find that little boy, but I realized I didn't have the appropriate training. So I did some research and found out about the LA County Sheriff's Department's search and rescue program. So I joined that.
I see. I'm sure you have to be in a good physical condition to get into search and rescue. How much ongoing training do you do on a weekly or a monthly basis?
So I train, I have workouts at least once a day, sometimes twice a day, because I never want my physical condition to be a limiting factor while trying to rescue someone.
For someone lost in the woods, say, from hiking, what do you recommend them to do?
So we always tell people to stay where they are because hopefully they told someone where they were going and when they would be back. And when that person isn't back by that time, we hope that friends or family call 911 and report their family member or loved one is missing. And once that phone call happens, then, there's a whole bunch of people like myself that will go out and methodically search for that person. And if they continue to move, that makes it much harder for us.
Mm-hmm. Great tips. Now, tell us, what was the most interesting or challenging thing that ever happened to you during a search operation?
Well, that is a very hard question to answer because I've had over 1,100 rescues. And so, there's been all kinds of different scenarios, rescuing, people and or myself and our teammates getting into dangerous situations. So I always tell people about my best rescue was probably when I was a bone marrow donor in 1999, because I'm still in contact with that person, and has nothing to do with search and rescue, but personally for me that was my favorite rescue.
I know you also have been volunteering your time as a safety officer. In 2017, you were deployed to Houston as a strike team leader. And also recently, I know you were just in Ukraine helping the orphans there. Tell us about it.
Yes, so I've accumulated a lot of skills and talents through my work with the LA County Sheriff's Department's search and rescue program. So whenever possible, I try and use those skills to help as many people as possible. And sometimes that involves responding to hurricanes like Hurricane Harvey in 2017. And this year I went to Florida for Hurricane Ian. And also internationally, I've gone to, as you mentioned, Ukraine after the war started. I went there in an effort to rescue special needs orphans. So through my work with the Sheriff's Department, I've been able to accumulate some skills that hopefully are able to help other people.
Just by listening to him, it just makes me so emotional. Your dedication and commitment, helping others is just unparalleled. Now, Deputy Leum, as a reserve sheriff for almost 30 years, tell us, what is your biggest reward so far?
So my biggest reward is being able to reunite missing or injured people with their family. Because I've seen it on the other end where family members are super concerned when their loved one is missing in the forest or injured in the forest. And I know that it's very traumatic for them. And so being able to reunite family members together, that's the big payoff for us.
Oh, I'm sure. What are the benefits of joining the reserve program? People might say, it sounds exciting, but, I just don't know if I could handle the emotional strain, or, I just don't have the extra time to volunteer. What would you say to them?
Well, and that might be the case for some people. It's not meant for everybody. But if you have a burning desire to give back to your community and to help people. The LA County Sheriff's Department has a multitude of ways you can do that. You could become a reserve deputy sheriff like I did and be a sworn peace officer, or you could be a civilian volunteer in our department and not have to go through a reserve academy and become an actual peace officer.
I see. And for someone that is interested in the reserve program, and that including me, what do they need to do to become a deputy reserve? Is there an upper age limit to join the academy? What is the process?
Well, luckily, we do not hold your years of experience against you. So there is no maximum age for applying. Mm-hmm. There is a minimum age of 20 and a half years old, but there is no maximum. And frequently we have people bring their private sector skills with them to donate to the sheriff's department. For example, we might have someone who is a fraud and cybercrime expert in their civilian life, and then they become a reserve deputy, and then they assist our fraud and cyber unit with the special skills that they have.
And if someone is thinking of a career in law enforcement, should they become a reserve first?
Yes, so it's a great pathway to full-time law enforcement. If you're wondering if it's for you, becoming a reserve deputy definitely lets you know right away if it's something you want to do for the next 30 years or not.
Now, what do people do if they want to be in a specialized unit like you?
So the specialized units all have their own separate application process. Mm-hmm. So for search and rescue, we have 8 search and rescue teams throughout Los Angeles County, and you must live within 15 minutes response time to that particular station. The reason is that if somebody right now falls off a cliff, we need the closest people possible to respond as soon as possible. So we have 8 search and rescue teams throughout the county, and then each one of those teams has an application process where you interview with that team. Now, other specialized units in our department, like Homicide, Narcotics Bureau, and some of the other specialized units, they have their own application process where after you become a reserve deputy and you've worked at a station for at least a year, you know station operations, department operations, then you can apply to one of those specialized units, and then you interview with them. And if they think it's a good fit, then you could be assigned there and working at that specialized unit.
Mm-hmm. And you did mention earlier, there's also the civilian volunteer. How do you apply for it? Is there some sort of requirement for that?
Yeah, so becoming a civilian volunteer is a much easier process. You are not a sworn peace officer. You are strictly a civilian volunteer. And we have over 2,500 civilian volunteers throughout the Sheriff's Department performing all kinds of various tasks. Those tasks could be as simple as doing mail runs for the station to headquarters, or it could be a member of a search and rescue team where you're out there hanging off cliffs and saving lives. So our civilian volunteers are spread throughout the department.
Now, last question before we let you go. What would be your advice to anyone looking to join the reserve program?
I would suggest they call me, and I'd be happy to talk to them in more detail about it. As far as, you know, the application process, which is extensive, the application process is the same as a full deputy sheriff. So it's very time consuming. It takes about 8 months. Then we have the Reserve Academy, and the Reserve Academy is time consuming also. So I'd be happy to talk individually with anyone about it. And I can be reached at 323-526-5100.
Great tips. Deputy Mike Leum, Search and Rescue Group Leader and Assistant Director of Reserve Forces for the LA County Sheriff Department. You're truly an inspiration. Thank you for all that you do for our communities, and thank you for your time today. Please be safe out there.
Thank you, Amy.